Guess what? You have made it to the last section of Math 143, Section 4D. It's on credit cards. This isn't covered too well in your textbook, so you're definitely going to want to focus on what I have here in the notes and what I'm saying here in the video. It's a very straightforward, easy um, section to go to end on. But it's really important. What we've tried to do here in this unit is pick topics that are hopefully that you're finding are readily usable in everyday life, and that you'll say, hey, I want to keep that formula sheet because I know I'm going to buy a car in a couple of years or in 6 months, or I know I want to keep my head wrapped around a house payment. I want to think about, we've also talked about investing your money, and in this case, we're going to talk about credit, having good credit, and how we can make good choices with our credit and things like that. And more specifically in this particular section, we're going to talk about, and we're going to show you how things on your credit statement are calculated, and so that you can protect yourself, and then talk about one specific way that credit card companies calculate interest, and that's called the average daily balance method. The only way to know whether your specific credit card computes this way or not is to, whenever they send out these little small pieces of paper, not small pieces, they usually send out these notices to you, and they're written in tiny print. That's what I was getting at. They're written in the tiny print. If you actually take the time to read that, every once in a while you will see that they have listed for you that they have used the average daily balance method. It is actually something that's actually in the consumer's favor. And I can kind of go down here just below and just sort of show you ever so briefly. Let's say, for example, this is just a small credit card printout, and it says your balance. You owe $1,800 on this credit card. Say, for example, you owe $1,800 on that credit card. Let's say, though, your average daily balance on that credit card throughout the month was only $1,200. Instead of you having to pay your interest on how much you actually owe, a little over $1,800, you're only going to pay your interest on your average daily balance, which is like I just said, $1,200, for example. Just for example, it's not listed here in this particular printout, but it will be listed in the next printout that you see. And if they use that average daily balance, it would be listed on your printout. But anyway, you think about it, it's I equals PRT. So you have your average daily balance is your P, your rate, and then your time is the number of days in the billing cycle divided by 365, because we want to keep it into years. Okay, so that'll be your formula. It's on your formula sheet, back of your formula sheet. APR, of course, has to be a decimal. And then to figure out what your new balance is, you take your previous balance, subtract out any payments that you may have made, add on any charges, and add in any interest. The reason why I have this printout here down below is because the Credit Card Act of 2009 enforced this piece down at the bottom to be on all credit card statements, so that folks would know if you only make, so for example here, this person owes $1,800 on the credit card, but if they only make a minimum payment of $36.31, that's what the credit card company says, hey, this is what you've got to pay, then if they make only that minimum payment, they're going to be paying on this credit card for 17 years, and will end up paying almost twice as much as what they owe, over $3,400. And really, what's even more telling of this is that that's assuming that you take this credit card and you put it in the freezer, and you don't make another charge on it until you pay off that $1,800. So if you continue to make charges, it's going to take you even longer to pay this off. So that it's really important that once you see that minimum payment there, if you ever can, definitely pay more than the minimum payment. That's where folks really get hit hard. I mean, you can see, like I said, you're almost paying another $1,800 in interest. If you just double, so notice in here, not even quite doubling it, minimum payment $36, a little over $36. If you pay almost double, a little over $60, you would take 3 years to pay it off, and you would be paying a little over $2,100, saving yourself a little over $1,200, which is quite substantial. Again, it's still taking into account you're putting that credit card aside and you are not putting anything else on it. with this $60 amount here that you're seeing. So I just wanted to point out, what this information here is telling you. And like I said, because of that Credit Card Act of 2009, this information should be on all of your credit card statements. All right, so with that said, let's turn it over to the next page. And this is a statement that I pulled offline. And of course it's a fictitious bank and that sort of thing, but the numbers here are great and all of the calculations are perfect. And so what I want us to go through is I want us to go through and verify some of this information up here to make sure that, hey, everything's checking out, so that you'll know how to do it for yourself whenever you see it. This is a common form of what something looks like, and they typically keep good terminology, meaning that the terminology you see on here on this statement would be the terminology you'd see on another statement, as another statement, another statement. They're usually fairly decent about keeping that streamlined. So with that said, I'm going to definitely go about trying to verify some of these numbers for ourselves so that we can make sure that this balance here that they say that we owe and our finance charge here is indeed correct. Okay. So what you can see here is that a person previous balance on their card was $22.50. And that we won't be able to calculate that amount for ourselves. We won't be able to verify that amount. I was saying, okay, previously this was the amount that was carried over on the card, a little over $2,000. They did make a payment last month of $50, and so that's where you see down here in the credit stage that they are crediting your account with the $50. So you can see that activity. Purchases and debits of $300. And so if you come down here and you take all of these charges, grocery store, bookstore, and so on, the movie rental, if you take all of these values here and add them together, you would find that that totaled up to the $300. Okay, so that's checking that out. The finance charge is our big piece here that we want to really verify. This is the piece that I'm gonna star here, because that's the piece that I'm interested in making sure, hey, is this finance charge that they're saying that we owe, is that indeed correct? So that's where we want to look at here in the middle, the finance charge, and this would have to do with the fact that here they're showing you average daily balance and the interest rates associated with that in the days in the billing cycle. You can see that they've already computed these values, so if you were to add these two values together, that should total up to the 3420. So let's make sure that indeed these two values are correct, that are going to add up to those values. So let's pick out a lot of things that are going on here. The number of days in the billing cycle, and you are picking that hopefully up right here in the center. So there are 29 days in this billing cycle. Average daily balance, or let me go to the right here. Previous balance. The previous balance on the card was $22.50. And that's just coming back up to the top, to the very tip top, $22.50. Average daily balance on purchases, and that's coming down here, average daily balance. You can see people choose to do transfer the amount that they have on other cards. On purchases, $2409.48. The APR on purchases, as you can follow that all the way over, is 15.99%. Average daily balance on a cash advance, $205.24. And the cash advance APR, you can follow that over, 21.99%. It shouldn't be too shocking to you that the cash advances are always a high APR. Total amount that you spent in purchases was $300. And that was coming back up and adding these values together. And the payments that you made, one $50 payment. And you can see that either here in the activity or back up here at the top. All right. So no fees were involved, so the finance charge is going to be your interest here. In this example, the consumer used a cash advance as well, so we're going to need to figure out how much interest went to that as well. So we're adding two interests together. So let's first do the purchase. So for our purchase, I equals my APR on my purchases is 15.99%, so 0.1599. Average day on the billing cycle was 29 over 365. times average daily balance. As you can see, we've already written there 2409.48. In this case, it was higher because this person had a carryover balance, but sometimes, usually it's not higher. If you pay it off each month, then you don't have to worry about any kind of interest at all. But typically it can be, like I was saying before, in your favor. Multiply this now straight across, and you're going to have $30.61. That definitely checks out with the amount that they were showing here in our activity part. You would do the same thing for the cash advance. So the cash advance would be I equals, its APR was 0.2199, 29 days over 365. Cash advance amount of $205.24. Multiply all of that through, and you should get $3.59. Take these two values and add them together, and you have your total finance charge of $34.20. Okay, so we have ultimately verified, yep, indeed, finance charge, that's tracking. So now let's take into account, let's make sure that this new balance is working. So the new balance is also on your formula sheet. Your new balance is equal to your previous balance of $22.50. I say subtract any payments, so you made a $50 payment. Add in any charges, you made a $300 charge. Add in any interest, we just found that, $34.20. Do your addition and subtraction, sure enough, $2,534.20. So everything is checking out as it should. So anyway, I just wanted to use a nice concrete example. Of course, all of this is sitting right here in front of you, and it's all computed. But I wanted you to see, whenever you get a real credit card statement, how can you check and make sure that those are right for you. If you flip it on over to the next page, this would be more like what you'd see on the test, obviously, because I can't obviously give you a credit card statement that's already basically filled out for you. So you would see something like you see on here on the next page in example 2 and 3. It says the balance of Margaret's credit card on July 1st, which is her billing date, is $375.80. So that's her previous balance. She made the following transactions in May. She made a payment on the 5th, so that would be a credit to her account, and then she made these charges. They're telling us what her average daily balance was on the card, so $359. So that will be what she'll pay interest on. And the APR on this credit card is 15.6%. And that's not uncommon. Credit cards have high interest rates. If you can look up and find a lower interest rate credit card, that's the one you want to use. Cards like Best Buy and a lot of the store cards, they have astronomical interest rates. 23, 24%. They have high interest rates. I'm not just speaking on Best Buy. It's other credit cards, other stores as well. So anyway, with that said, here in Part A, how much interest is due on August 1st, the next billing date? And it says use 31 days in your billing cycle since July has 31 days. So I'm going to find my interest. I equals my interest rate, my APR, so 15.6%, changing it to a decimal, 0.156. Do my number of days, so 31 divided by 365, times your average daily balance, $359.18. Okay, do that multiplication, and you should find, oh, her interest isn't too bad, $4.76. Not too bad at all. All right, then when you get to Part B, it says, well, what's the new balance on the account as of August 1st? So as of August 1st, then her new balance is going to be her previous balance, which is the $375.80. You're going to subtract out any payments that she made, and you can see that she made a $150 payment. You're going to add in her charges, and so you can see that these three values all represent charges. What I'd recommend, I probably should have said this from the top, take those three values, add them together first, just so that then you have that number, and by doing that, you should find that that's $240.35. So I can come down here and just add one number. So I'm adding $240.35. $1.35, adding in my charges, and then I got to add in my interest. Of course, we have to pay interest. So do the addition and subtraction. Now the new balance on the card, $470.91. Final answer. Box in, those are my two answers that I needed there. Okay. And that's really it for these problems. Is there's nothing I can't think of anything too different that would be associated with any of the problems. So example 3 would be much the same way. And then what I did on the next page is I gave you 4 examples. And then I just, well, usually what I do in class is that I work through exactly what I just worked through with you, and I'll let my students work on example 3 on their own solo. We go through it and check it, and then I just set them free on the next, this example 1 here, and example 2, 3, and 4. I have the answers down at the bottom so they can check themselves, because like I said, it is generally a very straightforward section. So I hope that you've enjoyed the class. I hope that you found hopefully a lot of usefulness here in this last unit, as well as some of the other units as well. Hopefully you've had a lot of takeaway, and I've enjoyed it, and I hope that you have as well. And I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Good luck on your exam.